And without any further ado, Mr. Jim Renacci.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you all being here. I understand what I'll do is I'll give you about I'll talk to you a little bit about who I am and why I'm running, and then we'll open up for questions. And I'd like to leave as much time for questions as possible because I'd like to hear from you as much as possible. So let me give you a little bit of, first off, how many people have heard me talk about my background before? Okay, so not a lot of people. So, all right, I'll go all the way back to my background. I'll tell you where I came from and all that, and we'll try and skip through this as quickly as possible, give you a little flavor of online, and then we'll open it up. I moved here from western Pennsylvania in 1983. My father was and we have literature over here too, but my father was a railroad worker, my grandfather was a coal miner, my mother was a nurse. We lived in a blue-collar area in western Pennsylvania, so I am clearly, my background is blue-collar. I grew up around the kitchen table where we barely made ends meet. My father lost his job when I was 8 years old, and we had to figure out how we were going to make it. So starting at an early age, I understand what it means to make ends meet and be able to make things happen within a core family group. I'm proud to say my mother and dad are still alive. They've been married about 55 years. And from that period of time of growing up, I can tell you that I was able to learn some very good values that have stuck with me forever. I was the first person to graduate from college in my family. I paid for my whole college education by working through college. I drove a truck. I worked in a body shop. I worked in a factory. In fact, I was at a place today, and I told them that I used to do welding. I kind of chuckled because a lot of people look at me and say, well, I don't think you've ever welded anything. Well, I have. I mean, I've driven a truck and I've done all that too. But that's how I got through college. I graduated with a degree in business administration, got a job in Pittsburgh with a CPA firm. I spent the next 2.5 years, from the day I got to the CPA firm for 2.5 years, I spent the next 2.5 years working at the CPA firm, primarily in healthcare, almost 100% in healthcare. I was assigned to nursing homes, hospitals, doctors' offices, and for 2.5 years I became the healthcare expert in the nursing home firm. Literally was the one called upon no matter where, although we were located in Pittsburgh, no matter where in the country, I was the one who was called because even though at the time I was only 22 and a half, I was their expert. All right. I got a phone call from a client of mine in Wadsworth, Ohio. He asked me if I wanted to come work for him. I can tell you that I had no interest in working in Wadsworth, Ohio, had no interest in coming here because I was going to be the youngest partner in a large CPA firm. By the way, it was Grant Thornton, so it was a big CPA firm. And I thought, why would I ever want to come here? He asked, I took some advice from my dad. My dad said, tell him whatever you're making, double it, and tell them you want a new car. They'll never accept that, and they'll never offer you the job. The interesting thing is, I called the gentleman back. I told him this is what I need. He said, when can you start? And that was the reason that I came to Wadsworth, Ohio, because I was born and raised on the assumption that when you said something, you meant it. Whether it was in writing or not, it's more important than being in writing. And when you shook someone's hand, and you looked them in the eye, and you said this is what you were going to do, you were going to do it. So I moved to Wadsworth, even though I really had no plans of doing that. Started a job out here with a gentleman that is still a big supporter of mine, still a friend of mine. And I worked with him for about a year. Also at that time, during that first year, before I came out here, I was engaged to my high school sweetheart, so I had to convince her that she also had to move to Wadsworth. That was a tough move, but she moved out here in August of 1983. I came out early in 1983. And we've been married for 27 years. We have 3 children. They're all in college, and I'm very proud of that accomplishment in my life. Being married for 27 years is an important contractual obligation, but it's also an important obligation that I believe in under God, that I'm going to, that her and I have maintained that marriage. And also, 3 beautiful children. They're all in college and all doing very well. After 1 year here, I decided that I was going to go off on my own. I had a couple $100 in my bank account. Really didn't have anything but an old beat-up car, and some of you might have heard that commercial. It's a true story. I went out and I bought my first nursing home. I convinced the bank to lend me $265,000 as a 24-year-old. And believe me, that's very difficult to do in this day and age. But they believed in me. They believed what I could do. You won't get a bank to do that right now, but they did believe in me. I bought my first nursing home at the age of 24. I can tell you from that point on, I bought nursing homes for the next 18 years. I did have, everybody says, well, it must have been easy. No, it was very difficult. You have to employ people, you have to make payroll, you have to live with regulations, you have to live with all that. But I also had something very interesting happen in my life. In 1993, I was told by the state of Ohio that my nursing homes did not qualify anymore, because if you all remember the old facilities, they were all the old two-story buildings. That's what I had. Well, they told me that from now on you had to have single-story, 2 beds per room. I'm 33 years old. I have 3 small children. I have $11 million worth of debt, 9 facilities. I'm wondering what I'm going to do next. I didn't sleep very much during those nights, but I will tell you that those are the kind of things that make you strong. And I realized one day I was not going to let this get me down, so I started a construction company. I tore every facility down and ultimately built all brand new facilities that were 100% compliant. At the same time, I found out that there were a number of other people in the same boat I was in. So I bought their facilities, tore them down, built new ones, and I can tell you in 2000 I had 17 brand new facilities. When I say brand new, the oldest one was 6 years old. I had 5 that I managed, so 23 total buildings. And I had a business related to nursing home operations. I had a physical therapy company, so everything related to healthcare, and I built that from scratch, and I sold it in 2000. Same time, in 1998, I started a CPA firm in Wadsworth. So I had a CPA firm in Wadsworth for that same period of time. So when I sold my business, I ran my CPA firm for a couple of years. And that's important because when I ran my CPA firm, my clients were dentists, farmers, doctors, mechanical companies, all small businesses throughout this district. And that's the other thing I did for a couple of years. I also was asked at that point in time to run, where the city of Wadsworth was running some deficits, a couple $1 million a year. Somebody said, you know what, we really need a business person in the city administration. And they asked me if I'd be interested in running. Again, I could tell you I wasn't interested. I'm not a politician. They asked me again. I knew that I had served my city as I was a fireman. I was on the Board of Zoning Appeals and I was on Planning Commission. So I'd already served my city. And I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and run. So I ran for president of council and won. I spent the next 8 years with one goal. It's to take the deficit spending we had in Wadsworth, balance the budget, and leave the city in a better position than when I started. And I can tell you that after 7 years, I had accomplished that. I decided I would not run again. And after 8 years, I left the city of Wadsworth and thought, okay, I've served the city of Wadsworth now 18 years, almost 5 years as a fireman, 4 years on Planning Commission, 2 years at Board of Zoning Appeals, all volunteer and all giving back to my community. And then 8 years as president of council of Wadsworth, and president of council and mayor, and I said I was done.